Remember this guy, Jake Barber? He was recently featured in a Newsnation exclusive detailing his encounters with non-human intelligence, specifically an egg-shaped craft, right, that they released a video of on the Newsnation exclusive. But one person that was featured in this Newsnation piece was a gentleman that goes by Dr. John Blitch. All right. Now, be careful with that name. You say it too fast, it comes out another way. So just.
And one of his most fervent supporters is Colonel John Blitch, a Renaissance warrior who holds a doctorate in psychology, was a Delta Force sniper, and is one of the few men to hold doomsday in his hands, commanding a nuclear weapons battalion.
So you believe Jake Barber is telling the truth?
Absolutely.
There has been a cover-up lasting 80 years.
Absolutely.
We've recovered craft.
Absolutely.
So let's roll back.
All right, so he's stating pretty clearly there that there's been a cover-up. We have craft, right? Absolutely, absolutely, he says. And here's Ross speaking a little bit more about this in a separate piece, talking about Dr. John Blitch. Now, stay with me because I've got clips from an interview that he did before this Newsnation piece came out that I found very interesting. All right, so stay with me for that. But here's Ross Coulthart giving a little more context about Dr. John Blitch.
Yeah, I don't know whether we made it clear enough just how distinguished a military career Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch has. He's a former Delta Force officer, so it's quite unique to have somebody from his background speaking publicly. And he's also written extensively on the phenomenon. He's taken a very close interest in it, and he's got a forthcoming book coming out. He's also, as you'll learn in an interview that we do with him later next week, he's an experiencer, and he's had direct experience of the phenomenon. And it's quite chilling what he describes happened to him. And
so Dr. John Blitch has apparently had personal experience, right, with non-human intelligence. Now, what that means, we haven't really heard the full story, but allegedly the full interview with him and Jake Barber and some other members of Jake Barber's team are going to be released by Newsnation in full. So I look forward to that. Make sure to stay tuned to the channel and subscribe so you can get the highlights when they come out. I will absolutely be sure to cover that. Now, let's get to this other interview that I was talking about. Again, this was filmed before this Newsnation piece came out, and it was on a show called Humanity Rising, featuring Jim Garrison, and he sits down with Dr. John Blitch, and it was a fascinating conversation, but there's two clips I pulled out in particular that I thought were really quite apropos. And I've put out a full over 20-minute interview on our Vetted Clips channel, so make sure and go subscribe to that channel, y'all, and support that. You'll find other, clips from interviews and this and that, other little bite-sized stuff on that. So go to that. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see the rest of this interview I'm about to show you. So first up, let's get to the first clip of Dr. John Blitch speaking with Jim Garrison, and listen to one part in particular he's going to say about the UFO program and his involvement with it, if any.
As a military man yourself, who was, been really immersed in the military for many, many years, trained at West Point and so forth and so on, how do you understand I know that they did it. The question would be, why do you believe that they did it and sustain this in such a ferocious way for so long?
Yeah, I think it's similar to the dark side of Santa Claus. It is an effort to allow people to sleep at night. As I said, lights buzzing around in the sky, not a big worry. Even other critters, walking around on the planet, not scary enough. But if you showed me body parts that were aboard a flying saucer, or if you showed me a mutilated human body that looked like some of the cattle mutilations and horse mutilations that Linda Moulton Howe reported on early in her career, along with many others. You could have convinced me to suppress that secret and to try to bring the other kids on the block into the Santa Claus conspiracy. That would have worked for me back in 1979. Now, I want to be clear. I have never been read in on any UAP, UFO, special access program of any sort. And I forgot to mention that on my opening slide, that little disclaimer thing. I don't have to do that because I was never read in on any of that stuff. I ran some of my own special access programs, but it was related to robotics, not with anything to do with this effort. But that's what it would have taken to convince me to join the cabal, is to be that scared of my kids being taken out of their bedrooms at night. And I think that's the underpinning for the entire level of secrecy. That's how you can get good people to do harmful things to their friends and buddies to keep them quiet. It's the rationalization. I'm not saying it's right.
All right, so there's two parts of this clip that I want to get into, right? And he kind of mentioned at the beginning, he believes there's been a cover-up, but he also kind of explains why he thinks there's been a cover-up. And if he was told the information, that would be just so terrifying, he would also, keep it a secret, right? Be part of the cover-up, if you will. Now, he also states that he has never been a part of any unacknowledged, special access program involving UAP, right? So where is he getting this knowledge that there's been a cover-up? Now, clearly his credentials are quite impeccable, to be honest with you. But I'd just be curious to know that, if he's even allowed to say. But, this brings up a discussion in this community that, honestly, I can totally understand, right? First of all, we have to consider national security, right, when it comes to America and the implications of that, right? And could there be a truth too scary to be told, right? And he talks about his kids and protecting his kids. Well, I guess my argument would be, what about everyone else's kids, right? Shouldn't we know about that to protect our own kids? And, I don't have any kids, but you know what I mean? Like, kids of this nation, kids of the world, right? Like, that's always been my whole argument. If people are just kind of keeping it secret to help protect themselves, right? And I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm just saying, this dam has leaks, right? So if it's going to bust open, I'd rather be more prepared for that truth than, it just being dumped catastrophically one day, right? So, but with no control over it, right? So I'd rather have controlled catastrophic disclosure than uncontrolled catastrophic disclosure, right? And we can prepare for it. So I don't know, but I hear what he's saying too. It's a tough thing. I can kind of see it from all the different perspectives, right? But at the end of the day, I understand that we do need to protect national security. We do need to protect our citizens. And with that, come some things that might be done that, your average person, myself included, may not be happy with, but there may be a bigger reason that we just don't know about. I'm also aware of that too, right? Where's the line? Is it gray, right? Is it just this staunch line in the sand that's very easily decipherable, right? It's like black and white. I don't think so, right? It's a tough one, I have to admit. But, I look forward to hearing more from Dr. John Blitch, especially explaining how he's absolutely certain that there's this cover-up and that we have craft, right? Definitely, for sure. And again, more of that information is supposed to be coming out. And he apparently has had his own experience, which I would definitely be open to hearing, right? Now, I've got one more clip to share for you that I also found interesting during this interview. Take a look.
I was really disappointed when Dave Grush first came out by the number of folks in the UFO witness community that there was a backlash against him. And my caution to society at large is, if every time a military whistleblower comes out, you trash him, how can you expect anybody else to come forward?
So he's talking about David Grush and the whistleblower, being a whistleblower and coming out in the reception that he got, right, in the UFO community. But I was around when David Grush came out. I mean, that's literally when Vetted started, essentially. And I mean, right. I literally started Vetted right when David Grush is coming out, essentially, right? Which was crazy, right, at that time. Didn't know about it. Was doing a few videos before. I'd done some interviews, so I didn't speak about any of that. Yeah, I just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, what the, okay, is this it? We got it? Boom, showed up at the right time here. But I'll be honest, I think the reception he got within the UFO community was quite positive. So I don't know what he's talking about. A lot of people support David Grush. Now, maybe with time, people have kind of pulled back on David Grush just because, and no fault of his own, right? No fault of David Grush, but just like what happened with his investigation. I feel like David Grush got let down, if I'm being honest, right? In more ways than one, right? Because it seems like we sort of reset after that and it just started new things and new investigations. And it's like, wait a second, what happened to David Grush? He had the whole, keys to the kingdom here, told us what's going on. Why are we not looking into that? If that's bunk, then what do we have going, right? Why continue to go through it all? He said where the craft and bodies are. You either check that, it's either true or not. Why continue? It never made any sense to me, but I guess I would push back a little bit to the good doctor there, but maybe he has more clarification too. But, I think the whistleblowers are, not all of them received well, right? But David Grush was, in my opinion. He testified before Congress. Now, sometimes other whistleblowers come forward with other stories that there's just parts of their stories end up not adding up, or, there's different details that are off, or cherry-picked information or whatever, however you want to look at it. Maybe, some people say, oh, it's just too much to take in, so that's why people aren't believing it. I mean, maybe. I guess that could be a part of it. Again, it's a gray line, right? And there's a lot going on, right? And then you just have a bunch of people coming out at once, not really sure what to make of it. Again, it's always just the backstory that becomes the issue, right? Not necessarily the story they're trying to tell up front, right? And as more details come out about certain whistleblowers, maybe their story just doesn't hold up as well. But, speaking of Jake Barber is what I'm saying, basically. But with David Grush, yeah, I felt like he got a reception. But, they're scared to come out because of the reception they'll get in the UFO community. I mean, that seems odd. Why are they worried about the UFO community? Who cares? It should be humanity, right? How does humanity treating it? And that's not really what a whistleblower should be thinking about, right? Well, if I come out, are they going to love me or not? I mean, what? You can't worry about that. How are we supposed to set that up for you, right? How are we supposed to change everyone's minds? It doesn't make any sense to me. And if he came out with true, proof, trust me, you're going to get support. It's when people come out with just stories and no evidence or proof that becomes kind of an issue. And if they do provide evidence or proof that's just kind of lackluster, it's like, oh, you asked for proof, but, well, okay, that's not fair, right? If I ask for eggs over easy and then you give me scrambled eggs, I mean, yeah, you gave me eggs, but that's not what I asked for, right? Like, it's so different, right? But again, people always ask me, Patrick, what proof would you need to see to actually believe we're not alone here on Earth, right? Because again, I believe in extraterrestrial life and, outside this universe, outside of Earth, right? I believe there's more to reality than what we know. I mean, I always say the only thing I know is I don't know anything. But with that said, I don't know what proof I would need to see until I see it. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, clearly a video or a photo, but I don't know if that would work, right? It's and I get it. It's a tough battle on both sides here, right? I mean, on one hand, you're asking humanity to accept a quite extraordinary claim with not very extraordinary evidence, right? And that becomes very difficult. Just, well, there's a preponderance of evidence, or, hey, look at this guy and that guy. I mean, why would he lie? I mean, why would he lie can't be the reason of why I believe aliens have come to Earth. Sorry, that's a huge reality change, right? Profound probably the biggest in the history of humanity. I'm talking of billions of years, right? That this earth has been here, allegedly, right? Depending on what you believe. But, you know, in humans, we've been dominating the earth, or so we think, for quite a while. I mean, I'm going to need to see some more proof. I mean, it would be like back in the day when they looked out at, you know, when they thought the earth was flat, right? And, you know, someone's going to go out in a boat, but your friend comes over and goes, hey, man, just so you know, it's round, FYI. And you're like, okay, what proof do you have of that? I mean, why would I lie? You know, now granted, he's right in that moment, but I'm just saying, we need to see something, right? I'm not saying I don't believe in the possibility, but I need a little bit more than that, right? I think a lot of people feel that way, and look, I get it. This is all I will say. I'll end here. It's an individual journey to take. So let's just be a little more respectful of people's journeys. That's my opinion, right? Do what you want. But at the end of the day, you know, respectful of people's journeys. Because even a staunch believer at one time never had an experience and wasn't a believer at all, right? So I think pushing people away from the community, and, you know, it's like everyone's got to compromise, right? We got skeptics that maybe are a little too mean to people coming out and calling them dumb for believing, and that's not the right approach, right, in my opinion. And then you have believers that are like, oh, you debunker, you ask questions. You know, that's also not the right approach. Let's all be a little sensible here. We're talking about a profound implication of, you know, another life form potentially being here on Earth. Let's all calm down, be a little more sensible and respectful, right, to everyone's journey on this, you know, crazy thing we call life here, and trying to accept this potential new reality. So anyway, I've done enough rambling. Again, go check out the full interview with Dr. John Blitch. It's over 20 minutes long. It's on our Clips channel. Again, link in the description. Go check it out. All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.